Greetings from beautiful downtown Hebo. Those of you who've been here for a while and know that the Lord took us back to Genesis, and we've been going through Genesis. We're going down a different trail this morning, and part of what has brought that on is it's been raining, and so it's been raining. What does that have to do with anything, right? It all has to do with introduction to a sermon. So that's, I have to come up with something for an introduction. So you go, okay, what's that all about? Well, it's been raining. Everything's been greening up, making Hebo look even better. And the only thing that hasn't been greening up is the corn. The corn is not greening up in that they're actually starting to cut it down and chopping it up, making silage out of it. And they seem to have a pretty good harvest going on, because there are a lot of trucks that are going right past our house with silage this last week. It was really good. So it's letting us know that the seasons are changing. The rain's coming, and in the fall of the year, we're just moving into a different season. And that just kind of reminded me of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, where it reads, "There is an appointed time for everything, and there is a time for every matter under heaven. A time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to kill," we hope, just, hunting season started, anyway. "A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones, but not at windows, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to shun embracing, a time to search and a time to give up as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear up and a time to sew together, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." So this morning what we're going to be addressing is the time or the season we are in. And if you're taking notes, which you can do that sometimes, depending on how organized I am in the message, you can take notes. Well, this morning there's going to be 3 points to this message. Each one of the points, if we expounded on, could be a message all by itself. So the challenge that I have this morning is to take those 3 points and condense them down, and so that we can cover it all today. Now, the season we are in is one of change, obviously. Due to what's going on in the world today, just going on in the political realm, what is going on, bottom line is that our country is never going to be the same again. Everything that you knew you can pretty well throw out the window as far as the country goes. And as the country goes, the church is being affected, and the government is going to try to do even more to affect the church and mess the church up even more than what it's already trying to do. So the bottom line here is that the church is going to need to change in order to reach people. It's going to have to do that. And, you can say, okay, what used to work, all those nice little programs that churches have done for decades, guess what? you can pretty well take and throw all the programs out and start all over. Okay? You know what? What worked in the past is the past. So what we are going to have to do is we are going to need to start thinking outside the box. All right? So, that all brings us to point number 1, which is the old ways. Well, you look at Luke chapter 5, verses 37 through 39, and it reads, "And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins, and it will be spilled out, and the skins will be ruined. But new wine must be put into fresh wineskins. And no one, after drinking old wine, wants new. For he says, the old is fine." That last verse right there is basically goes, hey, that's why we have always done it. It seems to be good. It's, why not? Let's just continue doing what we've always done. They're comfortable with that. It's like, nope. That needs to change. Okay? Now I heard that Dutch Sheets recently addressed the old wineskins, but I had to go on his website and look at things or pull up what he's done. He's done stuff on old wineskins for years, and I was able to find one of his posts and get some of the material from this and addressing this because he puts it in such a great way, And so grabbed a bunch of his stuff. The newer video that he has put out, I don't think I found it. So if you want to go online and to what Dutch Sheets has to say about old wineskins, go for it. Because from one pastor who came across it, he says, all you got to do is plug him in on Sunday morning, you got the whole message, and good. You don't have to say anything. Just show him the video. Well, I'm not showing you the video. I just gleaned from some of his material. So starting off as believers. Okay, believers are compared to wineskins, soft and pliable, or hard and unmalleable, making them unusable. Wine had to be placed in soft, flexible wineskins so that the expansion caused by the fermentation process would not split the skin. Between uses, however, the wineskin would harden, necessitating a renewing process before being used again. How do you do that? Well, you soak them in water. You soak that old wineskin in water, and then you rub oil into them. Now, the thing about it is water and oil are symbolic of the Holy Spirit. That makes you a new wineskin, all right? So, as spiritual wineskins, holding the wine of Holy Spirit, God needs to refresh us as well, so that we grab a hold of the new move of the Spirit. Okay? When the new wine of revival comes, it will absolutely ruin a church. And that's one thing. We used to, revival speakers. Where a church would have revival services for a week, and the evangelist would come in and just preach his heart out for a week. Yeah. You know what we kind of refer to that as? He comes in, he blows the church up, and then the pastor puts it back together. Does the church need to be blown up from time to time? Yep. We do. Why? Because we get very comfortable in doing it the same old way. Let's not change anything. Now, the problem that we have with that is when you start listening to some of the prophets out there, what are they saying to the church today? They're going, the movement that is coming, and it is coming, the movement that is coming, it's going to be coming through the youth, not us old fogies. Okay? It's going to be through the youth. However, the youth are going to need the older ones. Because why? Well, we know a little bit about stuff, about, okay? So so what they're saying, what the prophets are basically saying is that, yes, it's going to be through the youth. However, it's going to be different than a lot of the revivals that have taken place. Because this one, there's going to be a joining of the fathers with the sons. The sons are going to be gung-ho. They're going to be doing it, which is the younger generation. However, the older generation is going to come alongside them. The youth are going to have the passion, and the older generation is going to have, hopefully, some wisdom. So, that's the thing. There's, but even the older generation, us old folks, okay, we need to be pliable because there's going to be a fresh move of the Holy Spirit. So we can sit here and go, yeah, we've done that. Wear that T-shirt, done that, all that stuff there. Yeah, that's pretty neat. No, we have to be a part of it. So, we got to get going. Now, this is kind of on the older side, some of us older generation. You might actually remember the Jesus People movement. Okay? Stuff happened. I mean, it changed how we did church. Why? Because you would have people on the worship team that would have holes in their pants. They may or may not have shoes on, and they may have a ponytail, playing a guitar and doing drums. Well, no, the way we do it is you sit behind the organ and you sing hymns, if you're a girl. But things changed, right? Because there was this passion that came out from the youth. It was incredible. Now, the problem that we have, that we're seeing here, because the youth would get all excited and stuff, and it'd be like, they'll do a rock concert for you. Whereas us old folks are like, give us Joyce on the, organ, which she doesn't play. But it's let's just do this nice and gentle. Let's not get too excited over, God doing something. Well, the heck with that, right? Because when the Lord starts moving, guess what? All kinds of things happen. And unfortunately, for those that come out of a revival, that have been in a revival and you've seen what it was like, we sit here and we go, oh, yeah, we know how to do this. When God starts pouring out His presence in a revival mode, what just go ahead and set that aside, because He will do things that you know nothing about. All right? So, and that's the problem we have, is unfortunately, the old folks. This goes all the way back to the first century church. Because the first century church, if you do church history at all, the old folks were really concerned about the younger generation because, look at the younger generation, the stuff that they do. What is going to happen to the church because of the youth? It's da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Then as youth grew up, we are the church. And then, but then what ends up happening is we end up being the old in the church, and it doesn't change. I mean, you look at the younger generation, you go, oh, what are we going to do? Look at the younger generation and how they act, and it's, oh, man, It's like, yeah, well, our parents looked at us going, what's going to happen? Look at the way they act. Okay, so let's throw that out, because the youth are going to have the passion which us old fuddy-duddies don't have. So we need to do what? But be fresh wineskins. How do you be a fresh wineskin? How do you be a fresh wineskin? Well, that's going to be point number 2. Other than, soaking in water, soaking in the Holy Spirit, it's looking like, point number 2 is how to avoid being an old wineskin. Okay? Because the problem with old wineskins is what? We're tired. We're just tired. So it's like, all right, So basically I did some research because I wanted to see how Jesus handled the whole situation. Because he was in the thick of things. All right, so your example, and we're supposed to follow your example. How did Jesus not become an old wineskin? Well, I found out that there were times when he would be all alone. There were moments when he just removed himself from people. And he did that. And I'm just going to give you 6 references, and I'll give you the scriptures and stuff, and a short sentence on each one. So number 1, he removed himself to prepare for a major task. And we see that in Luke chapter 4, verses 1 through 2, and verses 14 and 15. So, and what's that making reference to? Well, after Jesus was baptized, when he went down in the Jordan River and came back up, when he was baptized, he spent 40 days praying in the wilderness. And this is the time that he was also tempted by Satan and that there. And this was before he started his public ministry, going into it. So, he had to get prepared for it. Now, the second point was to recharge after hard work. And that's Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 32. Jesus sent the 12 disciples out to do ministry. When they returned, he encouraged them to separate from the people who were following them to rest. So Jesus goes, yeah, take a break. Okay? Point number 3 here is to work through grief. And we see that in Matthew chapter 14, verses 1 through 13. We see here that Jesus learned that his cousin, John the Baptist, had been beheaded. What did he do? He went away by himself, be with the Father, to grieve. He just all by himself. The fourth point is before making an important decision. Luke chapter 6, verses 12 through 13. We see that early on in Jesus' ministry, what he would do is he would spend a whole night alone in prayer. And he did that before he chose his 12 disciples. Okay? The fifth point is in times of distress. Luke chapter 22, verses 39 through 44. And this is, basically hours before Jesus was arrested. He went up to the Mount of Olives and went a short distance away from the disciples to do what? But pray. And, he knew what was coming up. And so, trying to be ready for that, he separated himself from the disciples even and prayed. And the sixth point is to focus on prayer. Luke chapter 5, verse 16. Many times in Jesus' ministry, he spent time alone in prayer. And I spent some time, looking at this list and going, and taking this list and comparing it to my life. And I'm finding I'm coming up short on some of this stuff. And so I need to make some adjustments so that I can be more effective as in the season ahead. So I need to make some changes in my life, and hopefully going through this you will realize that you need to make some changes in your life. Now, point number 3 here that I have, why? Why do I have to make changes? Okay? Well, this came out of the Bible study on Thursday night. There is a verse in Colossians that absolutely just jumped out at me. And it's Colossians chapter 4, verse 17. It says, Archippus. Maybe that's what Chris will name their child. Archippus. Archie. Yeah, there you go, Archie for short. Yeah. See to the ministry which you have received in the Lord, so that you may fulfill it. Now, from this verse, what I'm hearing is, finish the job. And part of the problem that we have as pastors, part of the problem that we end up dealing with is discouragement. Because after all, we try to do what but bring the people together. And, let's be family in this. We're family, okay? So come together, let's be family. Well, those of you who have lived long enough, you end up knowing that there are some people that no longer want to be a part of this family. And if they don't move, they just go to another church that's in the area. And most of the time, that hurts. It does. It just hurts, But I'll give you this disclaimer, not always. Just being honest. There are some people that are just time stealers. And it's like, you know what? I could take this time and use it and be far more productive, reaching out to somebody else and dealing with, somebody else's life. Because there's no change. You spend a lot of time and there's just no change. It's like, this is a waste. I can do so much more, with somebody else. So anyway, but once in a while, I'm just being honest with you guys. But we get discouraged when the ministry doesn't flourish. When everything is going good, people are coming to the Lord, they're growing in the Lord, and there's growth and everything. It's like, yeah, but that's not all the time. There are seasons when it's just, you get discouraged. And when you get discouraged, what ends up kind of settling in is discontent. And when discontent settles into a person's life, how many of you know that they're not happy campers. They're just not. No matter how things look on the outside, on the inside, they are miserable. Because how many of you know Christians are very good at go, how are things going? Well, I'm fine. Lying through their teeth. That's, they're miserable. But I'm fine. Yeah, well, I used to ask my grandmother if she was fine, and she would tell me, my corn is hurting over here, and I didn't sleep very good last night, and I got this problem and this problem. So you know what? I quit asking my grandmother how she's doing. And she'd tell me, And then my cousins would sit there and go, Grandma, how are you doing? Well, she would tell them how she's doing. Her corn is hurting on her foot, and da-da-da. And then my cousins would get all upset and go, oh, Grandma, all she does is complain. And I'm going, you ask. By now you should know. Grandma's going to tell you, so don't ask, okay? But, people can be having all kinds of problems, because with discontent, if they don't deal with that discontent, then they can make some really bad decisions. Because, what are you looking to do? You're looking to make some changes, okay? Well, what changes? Well, let's get out of this relationship, or let's move out of this state, or you can start going to extremes. Let's move out of this country. Trouble is around the world right now, country after country is not a good option. We may be bad here, but they're bad there too. So, at the moment, governments around the world just kind of, So you have discouragement, can lead to discontent, and that leads to division. Because what do you start doing? You're looking at changes, all right? Because I'm miserable, and so I have to do something to cause something different, because after all, you're looking for peace. You're looking for something, to enthuse you with, or, get you excited about life again. So you make a bad choice and you go, what? You jump out of the pan and into the fire. It's like, out of the frying pan into the fire. It's anyway. You get it, okay? It's not a good move. And some people get to the place where they never find peace. And what do? They go from this shiny thing to that shiny thing. Oh, that's not fulfilling me. So let's try this over here. And that didn't do it either. Well, how about this over here? And so they're constantly in transition. That's their life. That's how they live their life, is just in transition, chasing the next shiny thing. Well, we're going to start bringing this to a close, okay? Because as we've seen this church go through a number of seasons, we've seen it go through a number. When you're in a church 28 and a half years, you see a church go through a number of seasons. Okay? Well, we're heading into a season that, at least for us, we're not ready for. You guys may be ready for it, but we're not. And I don't want to be an old wineskin that is basically all used up. I don't want to go there, okay? I want to be somebody that the Lord can pour His Spirit into and through, so that we can touch lives for Him. Because when the Lord starts pouring His Spirit into somebody that He is able to use, all kinds of things happen. And you know what? We need to be okay with that. So, We need to be ready for the next season.